Hello everybody and welcome to today's event, Newcastle Connect India. I hope you're all looking forward to today's event just as much as I am. As you might be able to tell, I'm currently working remotely from my study in County Durham. It's not too far away from Beamish Museum, if you've ever had the pleasure of visiting there. But do let me know where you're joining from today. You're able to do that by using the chat box function. It should just be at the bottom of your screen. So say hello and let us know where you're joining from, and I'll be sure to give you a shout out in a little while. So before I officially welcome our panel and I give you some time to let me know where you're joining from today, I would like to share with you a few ways we are looking to make your experience as enjoyable as possible. The event is being recorded and we'll be adding the option of closed captions when we publish on YouTube and YouTube. We'll share this link with you, so if you miss anything today, don't worry, you can catch up on demand and when suits you. We are joined today by 4 Newcastle University graduates who are currently based in India and are looking forward to sharing their experiences and answering your questions. Nihil, Venkata, Ashwara and Yasho will be more than happy to answer those burning questions. So please do pop them in the Q&A box. I think it's just to the left of your chat box and at the bottom of your screen. And any questions that we're unable to answer live, we will endeavour to follow up with you post-event. I'm also joined by my colleague Joe Craggs, who works in our career service. So Joe will be on hand to answer any questions that you may have to help kickstart your career and make you think about what your career might look like if you were living and working in India. Throughout this 45 minutes to hour-long webinar, I also want to discover a little bit about you guys, our audience. So keep an eye out for polls and comments in the chat. And don't worry, it's not going to be anything too serious. Think more along the lines of, are you a spender or are you a saver? I know the answer myself to my own question on that one, but I'll let you ponder on that. So without any further ado, let's get started and introduce our panel here today. So first of all, I'm joined by Ashwara. Ashwara, are you happy just to jump on and start your camera and let the audience know a little bit about you and where you're based and where you work today?
Yeah, sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Aishwarya. I did my master's in environmental engineering from Newcastle University in 2019. So after I graduated, I worked as an intern in Delta Simons in the Newcastle city itself. After that, I got an opportunity to work as a research assistant in our own university, where I was researching about air pollution and how it will affect the prehistoric people. Then afterwards, after coming back to India, I worked as an intern in an environmental NGO known as Air Policy Center, where I was a subject matter expertise. After that, I got an opportunity to work as an environmental scientist. Currently, I'm living in Gurugram, India, and I'm remotely working for a London-based company known as Cycle. So there I'm working as an environmental scientist.
Wonderful, thank you so much. And we'll move on to Yasho. Hi Yasho, thank you for joining today.
Hi Rebecca, hi everyone. My name is Yashodhra. I'm originally from Goa. It's the smallest state in India. I did my master's at Newcastle in 2015, so it's been a long time. But since then, I've been based out of Mumbai. I've been working with a PR firm called Alumni as in brand communications. And I've actually very recently, as of this week, moved on to a company called Golden Boys in a corporate communication role. It was very nice hearing about Aishwarya's experience. I did do a little bit of an internship stint at Newcastle as well, but it's been a long time for me, so it's great interacting with everyone here.
Thank you so much. Oh, shared experiences, and always good to hear. We maybe delve into that a little bit more in due course. Nihal, are you happy to share a little bit about yourself and where you work today?
Hi everyone, thanks Rebecca. So my name is Nihal. I went to Newcastle University to do my undergraduate in 2015. As it says on the slide, I graduated in 2018. Afterwards, I did the LPC in London at BPP University. And after that, I got a job at a law firm here in Bombay as well, similar to Yashodhra. and I've been working at AZB and Partners in the banking and finance department.
Wonderful, thank you so much. And Venkat, are you happy just to share with the audience today where you are currently working and your experience so far as quite a recent graduate?
Yes, Rebecca. Good evening, everyone. So my name is Venkat. I'm a recent graduate from Newcastle University in Masters of Microelectronics Systems and Devices. While I was posted up in Newcastle, I've been involved outside the classroom as well as a part-time key worker, student volunteer, and now doing many more things. Half of the master's degree was on campus and half went online. So I experienced a very big distinctive master's experience. And after coming back to India, I started my first ever full-time job. So it is verification engineer, and the company name is SANCA. So as of now, I'm going through my training phase. Happy to meet you all.
Thank you so much. And I think for the audience, also being quite recent graduates themselves, I think your experience of graduating and studying during a pandemic will be of interest to many, and it's something that I think in the due course of the next 45 minutes to an hour, it's something that we can touch on. And so we'll shortly start our fireside chat, and we were able to do that with everybody. But we had a question that was pre-submitted to the registration about who are our alumni community and what does it mean to be a part of that. So before I start the discussions, I thought I'd just shed a little bit more information about our alumni community here at Newcastle University. So this year, this December, we should hopefully reach 250,000 Newcastle University graduates. So that's 250,000 graduates that are based over 190 countries. And so there are many of you and many individuals will be joining that year on and year out. And it's something that we're proud to be able to announce to everybody that we've got this thriving community. There are different ways that our recent graduates and graduates from all graduation years can be involved. We've got our 3 strands. So we've got Newcastle Connect, which is one of the events that you are joining today, which is based around social connections and connecting with your local community. That could be through joining webinars such as this, but also joining societies and when permitted, in-person activity and just getting to know who they are. And also champion one another. So keep an eye out on those newsletters and find out what your community has gone on to do. We've also got another strand called Newcastle Develop. You might have seen my colleague Jeremy, who runs our regular webinars on this. This strand is focused on how we can support graduates in their career development and professional development opportunities and kind of give some industry insight. So last month, for example, we held a webinar, a masterclass on what it would be like to change careers. So you can keep an eye on that on our website, and we always keep our social media up to date as well. And the third strand is Newcastle Discover. So what's that all about? That's us equipping our graduates with knowledge transfer. So we will share our research findings from Newcastle University and ask our alumni to respond and engage with us in order to explore world topics. So I'm pleased to announce, and I brought it down here on a little piece of paper so I get the date correct. On the 27th of January 2022, and we'll be hosting our next Newcastle Discover event, which is based around data. It's called How Data Can Transform Society, Research and the Economy, and that starts at 1 p.m. GMT or 6:30 p.m. Indian Standard Time if you would like to join that. It's still save the date, but there you go, a little bit of insider information for you all. But that's a little bit of insight about who our alumni community are. And in India, we have just shy of 2,000 alumni based across the region, which is very exciting. So thank you very much for indulging me that time to be able to share it. And without further ado, I would like to start the discussion with our panelists today. And I thought, what a better way to start about finding what it's like to be living and working in India as a recent graduate. So my first question, if you would all like to pop your videos on, and that would be great, is How did you find your first graduate role? And do you have any advice and hints and tips for what websites to use or events to visit? So who would like to go first? Yasha, are you okay to gain any kind of insight into that for us?
Sure. Though I have to have a disclaimer that it was a while ago for me. And I think the landscape has changed drastically since then. For me, I was very new, I was a fresh graduate, and I knew I was moving to a very big city. And also I come from an industry. PR landscape is also very different in India. So I found the role at Edelman through LinkedIn. But I must say that at that point, even to get a job as an executive at a PR firm that was a multinational company, and it's a very reputed American firm. So having a master's degree, having some sort of experience in terms of internship was a bonus point. And I think that helped. But since then, I think things have changed. And apart from your degree, and I think this is what I was listening to Aishwarya about, I think a lot of people employers like work experience alongside a master's degree today, because they want to see your on-ground experience, your real life experience, no matter how small or big.
Interesting, thank you. And Vakata, I'd be interested to hear your take on this as a recent graduate yourself and kind of taken on. Yasha graduated in 2015. Do you find that her hints and tips are quite similar to what you would say, or do you have any others that you would like to share?
Yeah, when we pass a resume, so the person who is looking at it, he expects something other than graduation or other than doing the project works at college. So he or she who is reading that, they always feel happy when we have some point to say, it can stand as a difference between us and the other competitors. And nowadays, the number of students who are graduating or who are studying and still applying, the number has been raised like exponentially from previous years, and it can only increase year by year. We can't reduce it. So all we can do is we can try to be different from other people in any one way or the other. And if we can't do that, because in the times of this pandemic, it's not everyone's mistake. It's not anyone's mistake to not do or to do something. So we just have to keep going. Like if we are failing at something, we have to do what's the alternative, and we have to pick ourselves up, and we have to do care about also the mental strength and mental well-being and all. And regarding the websites, so I think the LinkedIn job applications are pretty good here, and also the other websites like Shine, Monster, and most of the companies, they have their own application system. And if you know someone, or if you know the company website, you can go there directly and follow them on social media. So they keep on posting these job vacancies with the qualification that they are expecting.
That's really interesting, actually. And I know that all four of you are active on LinkedIn, and I know that we've connected. And so Nihal and Aishwarya, do you use LinkedIn actively kind of for your career development?
Yeah. I agree with both of them. LinkedIn is very useful, even in Indian market. You get to see lots of job openings, job opportunities are there. And I think there are many challenges in India which can act as an opportunity. Like as far as for my field, for environmental engineering, we have many problems here, like water pollution is there, air pollution is there. So there are many, these challenges can work as an opportunity. And if at all, if opportunities are not there, we can make our own opportunities. Like we can initiate some startup. There are many policies which government has recently started. So using the experience and knowledge from the university, we can use it for our own country here. That's what we can do.
Perfect. And I know as well that the Careers Service have the startup program, and we have a lot of information on there. So I'm sure Joe can pop some stuff in the chat for those guys that are interested in starting their own kind of firm or their own enterprise, and we'll be able to share those information with everybody afterwards. And Nihal, is it very similar with you from a kind of a law background in terms of LinkedIn, or is there any slightly different approaches that we haven't touched upon?
Yeah, I mean, for sure, LinkedIn is, I think, the most important thing if you're looking for a job today. I know because I have a little bit of slight insider knowledge, because we're in the process of hiring some new graduates right now. And we don't hire anyone without looking at their LinkedIn. And, we check those and see if there's anything which we like, we don't like. I don't know if I think the Career Service does have a service where you can show them your LinkedIn, they can give you tips. I know they have one for CV because I used it personally. And that was really helpful. And they kind of go through it and give you pointers on what to change. But definitely updating your LinkedIn. And the second thing about LinkedIn for me, which I think is, well, for law, I guess, which is very important, is also understanding the job that you're applying for. So most firms and companies have LinkedIns themselves, and they often post information about deals that they're doing or projects that they're working on. And so if you do manage to get an interview, or even if you're sending an email to someone mentioning that I saw that you did this deal, and therefore, I believe that if you're doing this kind of work, I could help contribute to that somehow. I think that's something which really stands out if you are trying to apply for a new job.
Brilliant, thank you. Joe, is there any kind of quick points that come to mind, following on from what Nihal says about interview questions and LinkedIn scoping, that would be?
Yeah, I think in terms of LinkedIn profile, at least for my year, at the end of the course, our professors had taught us how to, I think not only the professors, I think from the career services also, that taught us how to do a well structure of your LinkedIn profile, how to get recognized outside. So I think university will also help in the end of your course to make your LinkedIn profile very structured and nice.
Yeah, great comments. If I can just tag on to that as well then, Rebecca. Yeah, I mean, what I'd say from my perspective is great to hear all of those comments, because you're covering off a lot of the main things I would have on my checklist. But definitely utilizing LinkedIn, being ready to use a full range of examples on there in terms of any work experience. And one of you already commented on that. Nice broad range of experience. Don't discount anything because you don't think it's relevant to that particular sector or that industry. It's all evidence that would demonstrate transferable skills. And so really kind of padding out that LinkedIn profile, making sure that you've got a range of experience on there. If you don't have experience, or you think you lack some, then of course it's just a case of finding opportunities that are right for you. There's plenty of virtual opportunities if you're still not kind of ready to engage fully in face-to-face. But it's just about kind of plugging those gaps and staying one step ahead. And what I would just say, finally, I've got loads more to say for you, as what you need from me. But one thing I'd say is about following on from what I think it was Nihal, what you said there, is about just building up a bank of examples, so that when you go into an interview or through the application process, you've got that bank of examples ready. And structuring those answers really effectively does help. So using something like a STAR or CAR technique, just to ensure that in that moment, you're not kind of struggling and having to dig deep for examples. You've done your research and you've been kind to yourself in that moment of having that bank ready. So, and again, drawing on lots of different experiences, part-time work, volunteering, societies, internships, drawing on all of that and being able to well structure an answer. But I would always say do some of that groundwork ahead of being in an interview or ahead of halfway through an application. Do that in advance and be really prepared. I'll hand back to you, Rebecca. Thanks.
Oh, brilliant. Thank you, Joe. And remember that our recent graduates can access career service support up until 3 years post-graduation. So once you graduate, the journey doesn't end here. We're here to continue that support. And, it doesn't matter where you're based across the globe, Joe and colleagues are happy to join Zoom calls, team calls, or any kind of method that you would prefer, and to make sure that you are all successful. We're joined today by Lucy. She's popped in the chat box and based in London. So Lucy must be thinking about moving potentially over to India, which is lovely. I've got a question in terms of your UK education. So did your employer, had they heard of Newcastle University before, and did you have to explain kind of what a UK education meant? Are there any tips for kind of being able to make yourself stand out from the crowd and kind of explain why being at Newcastle University makes you such a special candidate? Nihal, you're nodding your head, so if you don't mind kicking us off with.
Sure. I think beyond what I said before doing research about the firm, but in terms of internally what you could show, I think for me what really, really helped was the work that I'd done in various societies at Newcastle University. So for example, I was part of the MUN Society and also of course the South Asian Society, which is amazing. And if you are still in Newcastle, you should definitely join that. But yeah, I think, and again, similar to what Joke said, using examples from that work, any kind of task that we did, any project that we did, or even just running day-to-day meetings, meeting deadlines. Those are all really transferable skills. In terms of recognizing Newcastle University, I personally never had any issues. And in law, at least, I found that, you know, having an English degree was very transferable, and there are no issues of that nature.
Brilliant, thank you. Yashua, did you find that UK education supported you in your career development?
Sure, especially initially, I think similar to what Nihal said, not just about the fact that it was Newcastle, but I think specifically in my field, my degree was also accredited by the CIPR. So I spoke about that even as a student in my first job interview, and that kind of set the pace for it. And overall, of course, the UK education, I was also a recipient of a scholarship by the British Council. So the overall picture kind of really helps. And coming back to the point about the UK education is not just going beyond your university, is when, like Nihal rightly said, it's about what the kind of volunteering activities do you do, how do you involve yourself, and all of that kind of builds a larger narrative that really helps sustain things. And just a very recent example, last year, while working at the PR agency, I was able to win a business for a OTT platform called Movie, which is a streaming site. It's a UK-based streaming site, and it's part of the European Union. But one of the many conversations during the presentation was how I had volunteered at the Berwick Film Festival, and it was only possible because I was in the UK and studying at Newcastle, an opportunity which would have not come to me otherwise. So these are the kind of experiences that really help throughout your career, because you keep going back to the past and talking about what you've done as a student, and that always kind of adds to a lot of credibility.
Brilliant, thank you. Venkata Ashwara, do you have any points that you would like to add, or have they all been covered?
Yeah, apart from what Nihal and Yashodhara said, so I mentioned Excel Plus award on my resume. So the manager who was interviewing me, so she knew Newcastle University and the distinction that we have the clean room facility, which is very rare, like all over the world, not just in UK or India. So they wanted to know more about the clean room facility, or they did not understand what I meant for NCL Plus award. So when they asked me about NCL Plus award, so I cover all these, like volunteering, part-time works, and involving as a student ambassador and a course rep, etc. So all these come into picture. So when I mentioned all these, so they wanted to know more, like what's the what I actually did, what I actually meant by this NCL Plus award, and completing some 70 hours even during these pandemic lockdowns. So they wanted to know more, and when I was telling these, I felt happy, like, you know, I like when I use some words, so I go back to those times when I was wearing some masks for 15 hours straight away. So I go through that, and it made me happy. So I did not matter, like I did not care about whether I'm going to the next process in the interview or not, but I felt happy from inside, like I did something in this pandemic and all. And the reason why I was selected, it was mentioned by her on the joining day that I did something. Like even in a new country like UK for me, and in a new education system and infrastructure facilities, I was able to involve.
I think, and I think you're very right. The NCL Plus Award, it's a great award, and any achievement that you get as a student is something that we should be able to shout about. But like you said, not everybody might understand how amazing it is. So I feel, and my top tip would be to everybody on the call is to beat your own drum and to be your own champion, and to really be confident in explaining your own achievements, because if you're not going to do it, who else is going to do it for you? And so for me personally, it can sometimes be hard to say, oh, I did this and I achieved that, because that is not always my own personality. But in those kind of job applications, in those job interview stages, do it, because I think that's one of the most important things. You are your own person and you are your own champion. And I think that's something that you've been able to do, because you've managed to secure a fantastic job coming out of the back of a pandemic, and probably quite a different experience to what other individuals might have had a few years before you. So that's very reassuring, and congratulations once again. A question for our audience. I'm just going to put a poll on the screen, and then we can delve into a little bit of a slightly different topic. Is my first question, you might have remembered it, I asked it at the beginning of my introduction. Are you a spender or a saver? So hopefully now it should launch. There we go. And I am going to give it a couple of minutes if anybody would like to add in their answers to that. It's just a little bit of a fun one, but it can help with our next question. Brilliant, I'll end it there. Okay, it seems that 86% of our audience today are a saver rather than a spender. So this might help with my next question around budgeting. I myself, I would say I'm a bit of a saver. And so I wonder if anybody else will be in agreement with top tips. But my question for everybody is, do you budget, and do you have any tips in order to budget successfully as a recent graduate? Because I know it can sometimes be a little bit daunting if you then have additional bills now you've graduated, or you might have some more income, disposable income, and you know the temptation sometimes there if you're a spender to kind of spend it all in the first week after payday. And so does anybody have any top tips on that? Ashwara, are you okay to kick us off with that one?
Yeah, I think it's a very natural tendency that if you get loads of money at first time, you might go window shopping, then you might just pounce on one shop and you just start shopping mindlessly. But I think one of the most important tips is to just be sane, make a list, prioritize what you want, and then only shop. If you want to really shop something meaningful, then prioritize your list and then go for shopping. That's what I want to say as of now.
A very sensible answer, and I think it's one that I definitely do. I always don't kind of impulse buy, put it in your basket online, maybe go away for a little while, and then if you really want it at the end of the day, you know, you might buy it, but it might just be that, oh, it's got 50% off now, but actually you really don't want it. Does anybody else have anything they would like to add on that one?
Black Friday is a scam. Don't fall for it.
I am the world's worst person for this. I've already been looking at the Black Friday deals. And I said I was a saver as well, so clearly I'm not. I'm clearly a secret spender in that line. Great, that was a lovely question, just a little bit of fun for the poll. All of you guys have studied in the UK and therefore lived in the UK for a little while, and then you've returned or moved to another region in India or another city. Were there any surprises when you moved to where you're currently based? Were there any kind of reverse culture shocks or any kind of ways of working that you weren't expecting, that you would like to share any experiences about? Yasha, did you work in the UK for a little while?
Sorry, say that again?
Did you work in the UK for a little while?
Not as much, because I think my visa was shorter than it is these days. I used to work part-time at the UK, in the UK, apart from doing my internships to travel. I used to work at an Indian restaurant called Sachin's next to the station. I don't know if it's still there. But it was fun because it was earning my own money for the first time, and that was very exciting. Coming back to India and talking about a culture shock, I'm originally from a place called Goa. It's a very small state. Newcastle also was compact and nice and walkable, and I had to move to the big city, and I think that was a very big shock for me. And you were speaking about saving money and everything, because the truth of the matter is, at least in my field, in comms and in PR, where once in India, your salary, your starting salary isn't much, and the living expenses in Mumbai is a lot. So it takes a while to get adjusted to the crowd, to understand where to save money. It takes a while to come to the fact that half of your salary might just go into your rent. So these are kind of learning experiences that you have to deal with while, since you were talking about moving back to India and the kind of culture shock, and especially I think most of us would end up taking jobs in cities. So maybe London would have prepped me better from a crowd perspective. But beyond that, I think that's one change that everyone will have to kind of deal with. And I think that's standard for anyone who's moving out as a student, to your first official job and living on your own and doing things yourself.
Brilliant, thank you. And Nihal, do you have anything that you would like to add on that front?
Yeah, I think one thing, I don't know, maybe it's just me and my naivety, because I also didn't grow up much in India. So although I was born in Delhi, was when I came back to India, I found how digital everything's become, especially these days. I don't know if you guys have experienced the same thing. Maybe you guys were here more often, so you kind of saw it grow. But I kind of left and I hadn't come back for a while. And then I came back and now everything happens on the smartphone. So it just makes, and I was surprised because in a way it kind of makes things much easier and a lot more time. It just saves a lot of time. So that was definitely one thing. And I think Bombay, of course, is it's a very, very hectic city. I was in London for a year and I thought that was very hectic. Bombay is insane. Just the density here is crazy. But in a way, it has that buzz, it has that vibe. So, stuff is always happening, especially before pandemic. And I think now it's kind of picking up again. So that's really good to see as well. So those are two things.
Wonderful, thank you. Venkateshwar, do you have anything that you would like to add?
No, I think I agree with both of them. They covered most of the points, and what they said is absolutely true.
Yes. Yeah, I face similar experiences. So it's almost similar for every one of us.
Perfect, thank you. And I know that our panelists today are doing kind of different ways of working. Some are remote and some are flexible. So I'm going to move on to my next poll, and I'm going to quickly grab it up on the screen and let me quickly find it. There we go. So my next question today is, where do you prefer to work? And the options are, once I launch it, office-based, remote working, or hybrid approach, and then we can have a quick conversation around that. Wonderful, I'll stop it there and there. So again, 75% would like to adopt a hybrid approach, 25% remote working, and 0% purely office-based, which is very interesting. And so here in the UK at the moment, I can speak from experience of myself and what my other friends are doing. So if you're kind of at a office job, or should we say, there seems to be a little bit of approach at the moment for a hybrid model, whereas if you're more of a trade or a skill, then obviously you have to go into your area of work to be able to achieve that. So for example, my husband works as a maintenance engineer, and he can't maintain any kind of computers from a distance, I suppose. And so is that the same where you all are based at the moment? What do you prefer? What's your model of working? Now, Ashwara, I know we've had conversations around this, so I'm going to start with you because you really enjoy remote working, don't you? But are there any pitfalls to it?
No, for me, I think my first priority in this times was remote working itself. So the first thing when I got this job profile as environmental engineering from LinkedIn, I instantly agreed to that because it was remote working. And secondly, it was all based on my field itself. I needed to provide all my all information, all research based on air pollution. So that's what I needed. I wanted to sit at home. So in a way, I'm saving the environment also. I'm reducing the carbon footprints. I'm not going outside. So I'm sitting at home. I'm wearing my own comfort clothes and with my family and with my own environment. So that's what I'm loving it the most. But I'm keeping it as an office hours itself. I'm not exceeding it like more than 6 hours or 7 hours. I'm trying to start my work at 9 o'clock, end my work at 4 or 4:30. That's it.
I think that's a great tip to try and still keep that structure. Because it is very easy, isn't it, when you're remote working to work longer hours, to start particularly early or particularly late. And sometimes that's really great if that works for you as an individual. But yeah, keep to those kind of typical working hours. And Ashwara, do you think that for where you would like to go within your career, that's the future of your industry, is the ability to work remotely, or do you think there is a need to be in an office at all?
So the work type which I have chosen is more kind of a research inclined job or academic inclined job. So as of now, I think there's future like it can transform into online work itself for research and this academic thing. But if I switch to consultancy job, then I think it would be necessary for me to go on site and to see the scenario there, and then I need to do the risk assessments and everything, and then I need to come back to office and do all the reporting work and everything. So as of now, whatever career I have chosen as a scientist, as a researcher, and it's a desk job. So I think for a long run, it can be done online, as far as I have strong internet connectivity, a good machine to type and write. That's it.
Brilliant, thank you so much. Nihal, you are mainly office-based, aren't you? Do you prefer that, or would you prefer a more hybrid approach at all?
Yeah, so actually, we're actually in a hybrid approach. So for example, last week when we met, I had a beautiful, nice painting behind me. Today, I have my living room wall, which is not as interesting as the painting. So we are doing a bit of a hybrid approach, where we do 1 week in office and 1 week at home. And I think, yeah, there are definitely pros and cons. I will sit on the fence a bit with this because, for example, the call that I was on before this was literally me sharing my screen on Zoom and going through a document and getting comments from one of my seniors. And last week, that could have been done much easier. I could have just brought my laptop into the room. We could have discussed it there, and it would probably would have taken less time. So again, there's pros and cons. Of course, I'm a homebody as well, so that kind of flexibility to just be at home, be comfortable is really nice. But then again, I warned you at the beginning, I'll sit on the fence with this, is that when you are in office, you kind of work throughout the day, and then in the evening you get that clean break and you can go home and relax. So I think those are the kind of positives and benefits. So for me, definitely it would be a hybrid approach.
Yeah, great. And Vakata, what about you?
This is my first job, and I have been working from my home. So from one point of view, I want to experience the working in office, like how that could be meeting people face to face. So when we meet on Teams daily, so no one shows their face; they only speak. So it's like I'm talking to a chatterbox, like a telephone, or olden days when we used to write letters and all. So I want to experience that as well, and taking the current scenarios into point. So a hybrid approach can be very good, so that 50% of the employees, they can go this week and the 50% can go another week. Or if someone is not willing to come, they can work from home, and someone who is willing and interested to come to the office, they can come. So it can be like this, but not every company can afford this because of their own budget and investment issues. So I think this everything has their own pros and cons, but I like hybrid working more. And because of a new employee, I don't want to miss out. Like I want to say, after getting 5 years of experience, I can't say like I don't know how working at an office mean. So for that purpose, like I want hybrid thing.
Yeah, I think hybrid is definitely a preferred model. I'll get Yasho's opinion on it in just a second, but just to take it back to a conversation that I had with another graduate, it was that they'd started a new job during the pandemic, so they were fully virtually for a good few months, and then they have transitioned to the hybrid model, so they went back into the office, and they said for them it was like starting another job again, because they were meeting people for the first time, and so you may experience similar encounter in the future. So yeah, I think it's just for our recent graduates, and it seems to be kind of across the globe in the UK, India, and probably in America as well, that this hybrid model, it seems to be working very well. But if you're starting a new job, you might have a bit of a longer onboarding process that you might just want to think about when applying for jobs, and that when you do start a transition to in-person kind of get-togethers and teams, it might seem slightly strange at first because you kind of met them through a screen, but not really. And so maybe just take that on board and think about that from kind of a perspective of a new graduate, depending on where you would like to work. And Yasho, what's your opinion on it? Do you like hybrid, or are you an office worker?
It's a mix of what everyone said. I think echoing what Venkat said before, if I was starting out now, I would have wanted to go to office, because I think it's part of the experience. But right now, I love working remotely. I think I agree, especially in the corporate world, working times are not as flexible. But but since the pandemic, the one good thing that has come out, at least for me, is that it's given me a lot more flexibility to do a lot of things in my own life, which I didn't have before. Like I was talking about living in Bombay, I think half my life went in traffic, and I didn't realize I was missing out on that time till I was at home, and I realized that I can do a lot more. And the other part of it, for me, from a personal point of view, is that I like to travel. So remote working has that edge. So in the last year, since the lockdown has lifted, I've been able to find good Wi-Fi connections in different parts of the country, and like working out of different places. And I really like that. So, but yeah, if I was starting out today, then I think my opinion would have been a little different, but I completely agree. I think realistically, most companies are going to adopt a hybrid model, unless and until you actually are required physically. My friend is a stylist, and she's never had to work remotely, but she has to work in bio bubbles and take regular COVID tests. So it's not as nice till things get better, and things might take a little while longer to get better. But yeah, so personally, right now, I like working remotely.
Brilliant, thank you so much. I think Ashwara might have just lost her internet connection, but we'll get her back on board in just a second. And now going back, and I know that some of us are very recent graduates on the call, and some of us graduated a little while ago, but did you ever experience kind of any expectations from your employer to work differently as a recent graduate? Were you expected to work longer hours, more sociable hours, or to be on a very different wage to your counterparts that might have been in place for 5 years, for example? Did anybody experience that at all? Great. If not, it seems to be a fair process, which is nice to see, and that everybody is in the same boat. But Joe, I wonder if, and I don't know if the career service have any kind of insight to this, But are there any hints and tips when applying for a job, just to make sure that, you know, an employer isn't, I don't want to say taking advantage of, but kind of putting additional pressures on more recent graduates to kind of work longer hours? Is there any way that we can approach that as individuals?
Yeah, it's a really good question. Very good question. What I'd say is the support we can offer as well. As you've said yourself, Rebecca, you've got the support from us up to 3 years after you graduate. So for any students, well, any, I suppose, placements, internships, any applications that you're putting in, feel free to come to us. I work with quite a few students doing the one-to-one sessions who are just saying, can I just check, you know, not necessarily line by line a job offer, but you know, some of those issues. So the support there from us. I'd say, you know, don't be afraid. It's probably my top tip. Don't be afraid to stand your ground, and you know, you've got a contract or you've got something to go on. Have a good read of that. Do your research as well. As in UK, there's websites like Glassdoor that would review companies, and that's a good resource just to check to see if there are any issues, if other students, graduates have voiced the same kind of things. But ultimately, you know, you are emerging as a professional. You've got your degree program. You've got a lot to offer, and I wouldn't think about having to just lower your standards by any means. So I would, again, do your research, talk to other people maybe in the company if you can. Again, the beauty of using something like LinkedIn. But you know, don't be afraid to kind of stand your ground if you think there are any issues with the contract that you're given.
I think that's a great tip, Jo. And I think, yeah, if you're starting to apply for jobs, if you're thinking about that on the call today, please do reach out to Jo and the team, and I'm sure they're happy to give any insights. We've got Ashara back, wonderful. I think the joys of the internet, but it also means that we can quickly get anybody back on when necessary. So Ashara, we're just talking about if you've ever had any experience or expectations of having to work any longer hours as a recent graduate compared to those maybe that had been graduated for 5 to 10 years in a similar company. But it seems that we've all had a positive experience around that, so which is great to hear. Wonderful. Ashara's nodding her head, so I'm guessing that she's also had a positive experience. I just want to ask another fun question for our audience, because sometimes I think once you graduate, there's some things that Google can't tell you. TripAdvisor, you know, can tell you the top 10 places to eat or grab a coffee. So just a bit of a fun one for you. Well, where's your favorite place to hang out on a weekend? A favorite coffee shop, a favorite restaurant? And then if there's anybody ever in the area, they might hunt it down on Google Maps and be able to use and hang out with their friends there. Yasho, do you want to tell us yours? Yeah.
I actually because we were talking a lot about Mumbai. I don't know how many of you are planning to are considering Bombay, but beyond the traffic and the crowd, I think the food scene and Bombay has a very different vibe. So as a new a person who moved there 5 years ago, I started finding things that I like to do. So there are two areas that I think has like some great food spots and like good cafes. One would be Bandra, and the other one would be South Bombay. So South Bombay has a lot of the old British architecture. It's got a very old school vibe. Got a lot of old food spots and like iconic eateries. So there's a lot to do. So I think Bombay has a lot to offer, and I think a lot of, I'm not sure where Aishwarya and Venkat are based out of. I missed that, but I'm sure everyone has their favorite corner. So my personal favorite corners was either going to South Bombay or a coffee shop in Bandra on my weekends.
Oh, lovely. Hopefully I'll get to visit and I'll be able to try these delicious places. And Venkata, do you have a favorite place at all?
Yeah, I live in a very small town compared to Mumbai. So yeah, when we move to some place, that place becomes our home, directly or indirectly. I felt the same with Chennai and Newcastle, where I have been lived at, apart from my hometown. So when I get free time, I like to roam. Like if there is a company, like a friend or someone, even if they are not willing to come, I just go there alone and spend the time. Like I don't think much during that time. I try to eat. I try to explore some new things, new places. but I'm in my hometown now, so most of the places that I know, like I know them by inch from my childhood. So whenever I get time to come to a new city like Bangalore or Mumbai or somewhere, so I'd love to go to places and explore. I go to
I'm the
get lost,
same.
like I'd love to get lost there and find new directions.
I'm exactly the same. Whenever I visit a new country or a new city, I'm obviously off exploring for a good kind of weekend, and those steps on my Garmin watch will be off the scale. But I'm very much like you. Nahal, do you have a favourite spot at all that you would like to share?
Yeah, and it might be helpful for anyone coming back from the UK, because when I came back to India, one of the things I missed about England was the beers. And so fortunately for me, there's this really nice bar slash pub place right next to my office called Toy. So a lot of times after we've had a really bad day, I've had one of my friends has had a bad day, a couple of us kind of go down there and just have a couple of beers after work. There's this one specific one I would highly recommend if anyone goes. It's a red Irish stout, and I was really skeptical about that when I heard about it, but it is amazing. It is made by the bar. You can only get it there. You can't get it anywhere else. They brew it in-house. Fantastic. Highly recommend that.
Sounds nice. I'm not a beer or stout lager drinker at all, but you might have tempted me over the edge on that one. And Ashwara, do you have a favourite spot?
Yeah, so in Gurugram, Gurugram city is new for me also. So like we tend to go to Cyber City in the weekends. There are lots of restaurants. I get to see Nando's and all kinds of global restaurants are there. So I was missing mulled wine of Newcastle in the Christmas markets. We often get mulled wine. So like recently I went to this restaurant known as Vietnam and they were offering mulled wine. So I really enjoyed mulled wine there. And the weather was also kind of cold. So I enjoyed it. But back in my hometown is Pune city. So Pune city is really amazing. And like in terms of traffic and everything, it's less compared to Mumbai, but yeah, the vibes are itself different. It's a mix of old traditions and the modern culture. As Yashodhara said, just like Mumbai, there are lots of British architecture sites are there, which you can enjoy. And the place where you can have good food in Pune is in the Deccan area or in the camp area in Koregaon Park. You will get lots of restaurants to eat good food, and you will get lots of good pubs and bars to have nice drink.
Oh, sounds lovely. And I think if anybody ever is looking to relocate to a certain city or a different country, for example, get in contact with NU Advancement, because we'll have a network there. We might have, it might be 1 or 2 alumni, it might be 500 alumni, and we can help to connect you, because I know sometimes it can be daunting kind of moving to a new area, and you never know, you might get to then explore kind of these new areas that these guys are talking about or very excited about. And now I want to come and visit because I want to try all these places too. Wonderful. I think that takes us nearly to a close. We're at 2 here in the UK. And so I just want to say thank you to you all for joining today, and thank you very much for our panelists for joining and giving up their time, and I hope you've enjoyed it just as much as I have, and I love these informal chats. And you can see that Joe's put a lot of links in the chat box throughout the call. So what we'll do in our post-event communications is we'll share them with everybody as well, so that you're able to access everything that we've talked about today. At the beginning of the call, you'll have heard me mention the different types of events that you can be involved in here at Newcastle. And some of these are online, and we will transition back to more in-person activity in due course. So you're able to visit our website. It's just www.ncl.ac.uk/alumni/events. Or you can scan the QR code if you're high tech. Unfortunately, my phone doesn't have that capability just yet. So I'll leave that on the screen for a couple of minutes. But hopefully there's something there that piques your interest. I just want to say a big thank thank you once again for joining us. And we're always looking to improve our events and to connect with our alumni. So we will have a poll in just a second to ask how you found the event here today. And there are different ways that you can stay connected with us. You can use LinkedIn, for example, which we've talked about. So if you just search Alumni of Newcastle University, we've got a specific network in there where we share news and information. And we also have the website, which kind of details that our alumni offer to you all in due course. So without further ado, thank you once again. Enjoy your afternoon or evening wherever you are. Thank you once again to our panelists. And if you could spare a few minutes just to share your feedback for the poll, and then I'll let you carry on with the rest of your day. Thank you.